Hi, I'm Steve Rice. I'm an amateur woodworker here in New Jersey. And I started woodworking about a dozen years ago, reading books and magazines and learning on my own. But after a while, I really wanted to meet some other folks who are also into woodworking that I could exchange ideas with and learn from, and perhaps they could even learn from me. So I got online and I did a few searches and I found the Woodworkers Guild of South Jersey, which meets right here in Cherry Hill. So about 5 years ago, I joined the Guild and I met some really talented folks that I've become very friendly with over the years. And in time, I've gone to their houses and I've seen some of their workshops. And I was amazed by some of the things that these people have done to build their own shops and some of the things that they were working on. So what we'd like to do is take you to some of these woodworking shops and see some of the creative activity that's going on right here in New Jersey. And the first shop we're going to visit is Bill Nyberg. And Bill Nyberg is what I like to call our resident rock star in the Woodworkers Guild because he's actually been published a couple of times in some national woodworking magazines. But before we go to Bill's shop, I'd like to show you a couple of things I've done in my own shop. As any good woodworker will tell you, the heart of any woodworking shop is the workbench. But the workbench is a tough thing to build because you got to build a big flat surface without a workbench. So what I did was I went out and I bought one of these laminated maple countertops. And I just put a skirt around the edge, as you can see, and drilled a bunch of these holes, which allowed me to put a bunch of these Dogz right in here. We call these little things Dogz. And some of these hold downs made by a company called Lee Valley, which are really fantastic. You can screw those right down anywhere and use this as a clamp and hold down anything. And then I just put on this big twin screw vise here, which will just, it's rock solid, it'll hold almost anything. Lined it with a little bit of rubber here to hold things in place and not mar the work. And it's really a great versatile bench. Didn't cost me a lot of money and wasn't really that hard to do. If I could do it, you could do it. Right next to my bench over here, I have my router table that I built from scratch. Did buy the top, but I've got some great dust collection in here. The router is all totally contained. I got some dust collection right here at the fence. Built in all these handy little holders for my router bits. You'll notice I've got them all labeled. I'm not too OCD. Built this nice table for my drill press here. As you can see, I got all these hold downs. I have an articulating dust collection thing. Dust collection is very important to me because most woodworkers are aware that the dust from the wood is some kind of toxic to us. So I try to collect all the dust at the source of cutting in every tool. I got some drawers here for all my bits and a light, extra light, so I can see. Speaking of dust collection, by the way, I'd like to show you this custom cover I made for my table saw. This actually has an internal dust collection channel in here to catch the sawdust as it comes off the front of the blade. I also added this nice handy outfeed table. You can see I've added some storage under here with some drawers. Whoops. Some of my layout tools here. I'll move that away. Got a little kick stop here so I can turn the saw off not using my hands. And it's a great little machine. And this is the most recent addition to my workshop, and it's probably the thing I'm the most proud of. It's my hand tool wall cabinet. And I like to show you this. This is all my hand tools. And you can see I've made all these little holders for every little chisel and every little piece of equipment that goes in here. And it was really a lot of fun to build and a lot of fun to use now that it's done. And I'm really very proud of it. As I mentioned earlier, I just got into hand tools this past year, and one of the things I did with hand tools is cut these dovetails by hand, as you can see. And it was the first time I ever cut dovetails by hand, so I'm kind of proud of it. You can see my progress. These are the first ones I did, and then afterwards I did the outside, the doors, and you can see they got a little bit better there as I practiced a little bit. So that was kind of a lot of fun. So enough of my shop. Let's get down to Bill Nyberg's shop. He's got a lot of interesting things there that I think you'll really enjoy seeing, and he's a lot of fun to talk to also. Well, Here we are at Bill Nyberg's house. I think you're going to find this very interesting because Bill's got quite an eclectic collection of tools, a mixture of old and new, stuff from his father's shop. So he's like a second generation woodworker, and he's quite a character, so let's hope he's home. Mr. Bill!
Hey, Steve.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good.
I brought some friends along. We want to come in and take a look at your shop.
Sure, you're welcome to.
All right, let's go do it.
Come on down, Steve. Let me show you my playroom.
All right. Whoa, look at this bad boy.
Yeah, this is my new table saw. I've had this a couple of years and I really love it. The thing that sold me about this is the sliding table. It fits right up next to the blade and
look
it
at
holds
that.
a lot of weight. I need to put a little oil on that, I guess. But it's a real nice feature of a table saw.
Very, very nice. And I'll hold your work secure on here and just slide it right through and don't have to worry about anything moving.
Correct.
Very, very nice.
That's a very nice feature.
Very nice. That's a monster. Whoa, look at this bench.
Come on over to the bench, Steve.
That is some incredible bench. You don't see too many like this anymore today.
That's right.
Tell us about this bench, Bill, because this is just awesome.
This is a good bench, and you're right, it's a good old bench. This was my father's bench, and he bought it, I don't know how long before I was born, but he propped me up on this bench when I was a week old, and that was quite a while ago. And I'm still here. I'm still in the same place on the same bench.
I think I see some like baby butt prints right there.
Yeah.
This is really incredible. And you have a lot of your dad's old tools too, huh?
I do, and I've kind of a mixture of everything. I made this drawer thing a few years ago. I need to tweak it up a little bit. But the one drawer over here has stuff that I use a lot of the time. And that's where I mostly keep things. I use the other storage over here. I even put some of my fancy new planes in here just because I need a place to put them, not because I think they should be in there.
I notice you have a lot of old planes here too, huh?
Yes, I really started using planes other than a jointer just a couple of years ago. I've always used a jointer plane, but smoothing planes and some of the more detailed planes like shoulder planes and things are new to me. And it's a lot of fun. I've sort of been building my collection, and this, I think everything down here is temporary, but...
We've got quite a collection of old and new here. We have some very new planes that I recognize here. And then I see you have some old Stanleys, huh? Were those your dad's planes?
Yes, they were.
No kidding. Wow,
and,
that's really wild. Let's take a look at some of those.
Yeah, this is one of my dad's number four smoothing planes.
Look at that.
And this is one of my dad's jointers. Whoop. This is not the one I use a lot, but which is why it's a little dustier than the other one. This one was my dad's, and I have this set up pretty much as a triplane. But once I use that, I use my brand new Lee Nielsen number 8, which I really love. This is my favorite plane above all of them. It's just such a wonderful instrument.
I have the same plane. It's great.
Yeah.
And I see some little planes over here that aren't exactly hand planes.
Well, it's the plane department, so I figured I'd put my planes there. That was a toy that was given to me when I was about 1 year old or something, and my parents never let me play with it, so it hung in my room when I was a little kid. So I hung it up over here, and my sons have been giving me these planes to go with them.
This is classic. Wow, look at this drill press. Whoa, look at this with this.
This was my dad's.
Holy cow.
And this came out of his shop in Dodge's. My father was the last cabinet maker for Dodge Furniture Company in Manchester, Massachusetts.
No kidding.
They were in business for about, I don't know, gosh, well over 300 years. And when his boss died, he got a couple of the tools, and this was one of them.
Wow, you don't see this with this foot lever.
Yeah.
You don't see anything. What a great idea, too.
It's
so many
terrific.
times you're playing with these three-spoke things, and
It is
That's
very
really
nice.
great.
It just makes everything much more precise and much easier to use. I don't know why you don't see it a lot on the newer drill presses. I would think every drill press should have that.
This is classic. This is classic stuff. You got to look around this place. Wow, I see you got a nice heavy-duty bandsaw here, huh, Bill?
Yes, I do. This is nice. I was using my dad's bandsaw, which was older than I was. It's a nice bandsaw, but I figured I'd get this as a companion to my new table saw.
Oh,
I ordered them both at the
nice.
same time. They were shipped at the same time, and it's just a lot of fun.
I imagine getting it down those steps was a lot of fun, too.
It took me 3 months to get these two puppies down that flight of stairs.
That's a story for another day.
Yes, it is. I made a special rig, and I bought special rigging equipment, and I made a special cart, and 3 months later, it came down with no trouble whatsoever.
There's the advantage of a garage workshop. You open the door, the thing comes in, you're done.
That's right.
Hey, I noticed on your saw here, your table saw, that there's 2 blades. Why is that, Bill?
Well, you got me coming and going on that one.
All right.
This is a conventional cabinet blade. I have a 10-inch blade on here at the moment, but I can put as big as a 12-inch blade on here, which occasionally is very nice for making a deeper cut. This saw also has what they call a scoring saw blade, and what it does is to make a very shallow cut in plywoods, so you don't get a splintery cut that you sometimes do with a regular blade. So it's not something that I use a lot, but it has to be ordered with the saw, and I didn't think I'd ever be ordering another saw this size in my lifetime, so I bought it with the saw.
So does that have a separate controller to raise and lower that?
Yes, it does, and it's a separate switch down here to power it even. You know.
Very interesting.
So you're less likely to cut
Quite an
yourself.
interesting piece of equipment. Now, speaking of interesting, this bench over here is quite an unusual piece of work. You want to tell us about this?
Well, it's a little beat up now from all the projects I've been doing in the last 20-something years, but I'm proud of this bench. This was published in Fine Woodworking magazine years ago.
No kidding.
And the editors gave me a lot of compliments on the design.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So you made your own vices out of pipe clamps.
Yes, I bought a couple of sets of double bar pipe clamps because I figured if I was going to do it, I might as well throw some vices on there. But mostly it's just used as a work table, a nice low work table. When I was a kid, my father had a really crude piece of equipment he called the platform. And an awful lot of stuff got done on the platform. So the platform didn't survive the move from Massachusetts down to New Jersey. So I had to make a platform, so I ended up designing this.
Very nice. Very unusual. And I see you got quite a nice joiner over here, too.
Yes.
This is a big monster.
This is nice. This is also something new. This is an 8-inch wide jointer and it has long tables, which is very handy for handling big pieces of wood.
Boy.
It just holds the weight up very nice. The jointer is a tool, of course, for doing rough stock preparation. And this particular one I'm very proud of because it has a new helical head which takes shearing cuts and makes a smoother cut with the wood, especially if the wood has funny grain.
So this is a very interesting little collection of scraps you got here, Bill. Do we not throw things away?
This is the parsimonious department.
I see.
These are scrap pieces, but they're all usually exotic pieces of wood. This is a piece of ebony, and this is a piece of zebra wood, and I've got some tulip wood in here, and some rose wood, and things like that.
Spiders like it too.
But I also have a wood stove upstairs that needs kindling every now. So every now and then I edit things out, you know.
I see you got some classic old machinery over here, which I see you've sort of refurbed by putting some new wheels on here and a new Veritas holding jig.
Correct, absolutely correct.
Very nice.
The Veritas jig I had before, but I bought this thing for sharpening my turning tools.
Very cool.
And I hated to give up my Veritas jig for doing chisels, so I made this myself out of wood.
Yeah,
It lets me use my old jig as well as my new turning tool.
Very cool.
sharpening jig.
And they do not build stuff like this anymore, do they?
No, this is
You
nice.
see your little plastic screens now.
Yeah.
That is
Should I
nice.
turn this on and make a little noise and show you
Yeah,
the
sure,
lights?
Go ahead.
There's 2 lights in each one.
Very
It's
nice.
just a nice feature.
These are incredible old lathes.
These were my dad's. This one is the one my dad taught me how to turn on about 60-something years ago. And it's I always thought it was a modern lathe. It's only recently that I've discovered that the lathes you buy nowadays have all kinds of features that this one doesn't.
Yeah, it's these external belts, you know.
Yeah, everything is, of course, non-safety compliant. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure it was fine in the
finger
1930s, that sort of thing.
Right.
The other one here is a 19th century lathe that my father retrieved and set up in our house. I've preliminarily set it here, but I've never really gotten it functional. So it's just sort of sitting here as a, almost as an ornament. But it does work, and my dad turned a lot of stuff on it.
Wow.
But these are
Unbelievable.
the
Classics.
these are the 2 oldies. This is all cast iron, and this stuff weighs hundreds of pounds a piece.
It's almost like a museum.
Yeah, it is.
Unbelievable.
My son Eric, that you know, has been. This is a piece of his stuff. Even though the thing wobbles a bit, he's been turning with it. You know, not lately. Let me show you a couple of things from my distant past here.
Wow, these are some classic machines. These are probably the first power tools.
Could be. I haven't seen anything like this in a catalog or book ever since. This jigsaw was the first stationary power tool my dad let me use. I was 7. And it's in retired mode, as you can tell, with all the dust over it.
I just thought you used it a lot. That's how it got that way.
No, well, everything else I use has dust all over it, but this is just dust from the air. But
That's
this
incredible.
is a big, heavy old jigsaw.
That is a monster. That's a classic.
I used to make my own jigsaw puzzles when I was a kid.
No kidding.
Yeah. This
Oh my goodness, look at this thing. I'm sure I've used the word classic 20 times here, but this is definitely classic stuff.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
Again, this is older than I am, but I used it until
That's
a couple of
pretty
years
old.
ago when I got my new one. I've modified it a little bit. I made a safety guard, which it didn't have. I made another safety guard over here, and I have a little better way of turning it off and on. But it's been sitting here gathering dust in retired mode. I don't use it, but it works fine. If you plugged it in, I'm sure it would cut wood.
That is one of, we're going to just turn this place into a museum, I think, at this point. Show me something else that's cool.
Okay.
So I see we got an old shaper over here, huh?
Yes, and this is a blend of what you were talking about, the old and the new. This was my dad's shaper. It's an old one. It's a single speed, single direction shaper, and I've modified it a bit and put a router table on it. And
Very
sometimes
nice.
I use them both, and sometimes I use neither one. I've built a few router tables in the time I've been here, and I'm designing another one. This is a great router table, but
Because you can never have enough router
you
tables,
can never have
right?
enough router tables.
That's what they always
right.
say. And speaking of never having enough, they always say you can never have enough clamps.
And they are correct.
And I see you've got quite a collection over here.
I'll show you.
Now these also look of the vintage variety here.
Yeah, some are very vintage and some are pretty new. I built my kitchen with wooden clamps that my dad had. And the wooden clamps convinced me to start buying some metal clamps.
And why is that?
Well, they work a lot more smoothly than the old wooden clamps. These are the ones that I use most of the time. I have a few others stashed in different places in the shop, but these are my active set here.
Very, very interesting. Now it looks like these are double.
Yes, these are double bar clamps, and they're my favorites, really. This is a nice product. It's a little dusty at the moment, but for clamping 2 pieces of wood together, there's nothing like it. You put the wood in there and flip these over so it touches both sides, and it puts the pressure right in the middle.
They keep nice and parallel, I bet. Huh?
Yes.
Very nice.
And
Never saw those before.
yeah, these are made by the Hartford Clamp Company in Hartford, Connecticut, and I can't find them on the internet anymore.
They're probably not there anymore.
Maybe not, but my
Hartford
dad.
is though, I'm pretty sure.
Hartford, Connecticut's still there. I'll bet you that's still there.
And what do we got here? Little bellows there? What do we use that for?
Yeah, this
Apparently not for
this
blowing
is,
the dust away.
well, my sons tell me, Dad, you got to get compressed air in your shop. And I say, you know, I've got compressed air in my shop. This is, yeah, look, yeah, gosh, it does blow dust away. God, I never knew that before. But this is my compressed air in the shop. See, I do have modern things in here.
I am so impressed, Bill. I don't know what to say. So this has been quite an experience. We've seen a lot of interesting things here in your shop. Some quite classic machinery. But this has caught my eye right here, this little dodecahedron of yours. You want to tell us how you went about cutting these angles like this?
Well, this is just a hobby. It started out as a short hobby and it's ended up as a longer hobby. I keep doing these and trying to figure it out. This particular one's not done yet. It's still a little cockeyed. But the idea is that I've made a jig for my table saw. And after having a square piece of wood and making the first two cuts with the blade at the what they call the dihedral angle, the angle of the dodecahedron, I then made this jig, and this jig holds the piece of wood like this, so I can shave off the corners. And what I do is I do opposite corners at the same time, so that I can check them for height, so that I can make sure that they're all about the same parallel all the way around. Then I go to the other two corners and do that. It takes longer than you think because this is a small one, but most of the dodecahedrons I've made have been a little bigger, and the blade won't cut all the way through. So after I make the first cut, I have to put this in the bench vise and plane off what's left, and do a lot of work with hand planes and sanders in order to get each face.
How the hell did you do this one?
Very carefully. But that's the way you do it. You do two faces, and then you use those two faces to make alignment marks on and put them on the ruler here. That's just an arbitrary ruler. But once you find a place on the ruler that works for that particular thickness, then you can make two more cuts and take those over to the bench and hand plane them off, etc., etc. It's usually about a day's work in one of these things.
Wow.
The other interesting thing is that about 2/3 of the wood ends up as scrap. One of the ones I made, I got a plank, I cut it up in sections and glued it together and weighed it. It weighed 12 pounds. I cut a dodecahedron out of it, and that only weighed 4 pounds.
This weighs a little more than 4 pounds.
Yeah, that was a big hunk of cherry.
I wonder if you could do these on the bandsaw.
I'm sure you could.
That would, unbelievable. Well, it's been quite an experience. It's been, I'm at a loss for words, I gotta say. This has been a very interesting experience.
Thanks for coming over. It was a lot of fun.